Mary Bradbury was supposed to die on Salem's gallows in 1692, but she pulled off the greatest vanishing act in witch trial history. Centuries later, her descendant Christopher Reeve would make another kind of magic, convincing the world that superheroes are real. Welcome to The Thing About Salem, where we discovered that the real superpowers were in the family tree all along. I'm Josh Hutchinson, and I'm descended from several people involved in the Salem Witch Trials, including victim Mary Esty, accused witch Mary Osgood, Minister Francis Dane, and accuser turned defender Joseph Hutchinson.
I'm Sarah Jack. I'm also a descendant. Mary Esty and Rebecca Nurse are my ninth great-grandmothers, and they were sisters who were both executed in 1692.
Yeah, and guess what? Sarah and I are distant cousins because of Mary Esty.
And our friend Mary Bingham is also a Mary Esty descendant.
And we had no idea about that when we met each other and started this show.
I find that incredible that the three of us wanting to speak for our ancestors came together to work on exonerations, not even realizing that we were going to have the connections.
And you may have connections as well. Dr. Emerson Baker says there are probably 100 million descendants of the people accused of witchcraft in the Salem Witch Trials, let alone everybody else who was involved in the witch trials and other roles. We're just two of these people. You may be as well. If you are, let us know.
I think that is really powerful to realize when you consider how recent those witch trials really were. 1692, less than 400 years ago, and here we are at over 100 million descendants.
Yeah, and there are other witch trials, of course. Salem's not the only one, and you might be descended from someone involved in a witch trial in Connecticut or Europe or some other place. And we're interested in knowing about those connections as well, if you want to share that on our Patreon.
There are descendants that come from other witch trials in Boston. I had a 10th great grandmother, Mary Hale, who stood trial in Boston. And then her daughter and granddaughter were then tried later in Hartford, Connecticut. So a lot of us are descendants of women who were accused of witchcraft. One group of descendants that has come together for centuries, in fact, are descendants of Rebecca Nurse and Mary Esty. Their parents, William and Joanna, came over from Great Yarmouth, England, and had several children, and there is a town family association, and there are thousands of descendants, and we have a Facebook group, there are family reunions, and there's a lot of those cousins who tie back to several of the siblings. I myself go back to both Mary and Rebecca. It's so interesting to look at all those family lines in the Town Family Association. Back in the 90s, when I was growing up, it was still your family who gave you an idea of your family history. Many of us had family historians, and I had one of those. Her name was Darlene, and she did research by writing cousins and going to archives and visiting cemeteries. And I had a high school assignment to build out a family tree, and so she was the first one I went to on that side of my family. And she gave me one of these handy little typed up pedigree charts. And at the very end, it says Rebecca hanged in 1692. That didn't really mean much to me back in the 90s. But that's the first time that I knew Rebecca Nurse's name. I hadn't read The Crucible. I wasn't familiar with that story. It came from my own family history, just on a loose piece of paper of typed genealogy. And that was the beginning of this story.
One day, I was at the Rebecca Nurse homestead when I was 16 years old with my family. We had gone to my grandfather's hometown of Danvers, Massachusetts, which used to be Salem Village. And so we were wandering around the property of the Rebecca Nurse homestead. And in the cemetery area, there's a marker to Rebecca, but there's also a little marker, a stone that lists the names of the people who defended Rebecca in a petition that was submitted to the court. And I was looking at this marker and I saw my name on it. It said Josh Hutchinson. I was very sure it said Josh Hutchinson until I looked at the picture closely that they had taken of it. And I saw a little apostrophe and it said JOS apostrophe H Hutchinson. And so I did some digging in family history materials and found out that there was a Joseph Hutchinson who was my 10th great grandfather, and he was involved in the Salem Witch Trials. And that was his name on that marker. So that meant that he defended Rebecca Nurse, who, as it turns out, was his neighbor. They were catty corner to each other, their properties. So they would have been close. And that's probably why he came to her defense, because he probably knew her pretty well. There's a funny story about Joseph Hutchinson. He had donated the land for Salem Village's first meeting house, but he got mad at the minister, Samuel Paris, and he fenced off the meeting house so nobody could come in and go to service. And of course, everybody was irate and they tore up the fence and went to meeting anyways. And Joseph Hutchinson, another interesting thing about him is that, as I said, he was an accuser turned defender. He was one of the 4 men who filed the first complaints against Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne, and Tituba. So he was part of this process of getting the whole witch trial episode underway. But then later, he appears to have changed his mind because he defended Rebecca by signing this petition and also by testifying in court against one of the accusers of Rebecca, pointing out how she had contradicted herself and was basically lying. And today, you can visit Joseph Hutchinson's land anytime you go to see the Witch Trial Victims Memorial in Danvers. That's Joseph Hutchinson's land. And as we've said, Sarah and I are both descendants of Rebecca's sister, Mary Esty. She was special in that she wrote a very strong petition urging that no more innocent blood be shed. She knew that it was her time to die, but she didn't want anybody else to suffer the same way in the witch trials, because if she was innocent and she knew it, then she was sure that others were innocent as well and suffering needlessly.
But she firmly believed that she had to be respectful and not question authority. I can't imagine what that conflict is like when your life is on the line. So she used her energy to beseech them to really consider who they were convicting, because, like Josh said, she knew she was innocent and she didn't want anybody else to die who was innocent. And unfortunately, as we all know, many, many more people have gone on to die because of witchcraft accusations. We were able to visit the place that she hid from her second arrest. In 2023, we were able to visit that spot, and we had that experience with advocate Leo Igwe, who is with Advocacy for Alleged Witches of Nigeria. I bring this up because, as a descendant of Mary, her petition is one of the things that drives me to speak about the modern witchcraft accusations. Being in the place where she hid and visiting it with an advocate who's on the ground every day trying to save lives from these same witchcraft accusations. It's something that I think of very regularly. And so I appreciate that I had that experience. I'm also really sad to be able to have an experience like that and for it to be something that's so critical.
It was really powerful to be with him on that trip and take him to the monuments and memorials so he could pay his respects, because he doesn't have that opportunity in his own country where these things are happening every day. There's no place to go in remembrance of victims yet. Another one of my ancestors I mentioned at the beginning is the minister Francis Dane of Andover. He was the senior minister in the town, and this was the town that unfortunately had the most accusations of any community in Massachusetts or in New England at all in the Salem Witch Trials. It outdid Salem plus Salem Village combined by a good margin. And Andover wasn't a very great big town. It's 500 some people, and about 45 of them were accused of witchcraft. Many of them were related to Francis Dane. So I bring him up because of all these connections he has through his own descendants and his wife's sisters and cousins and things. He had 28 members of his extended family accused of witchcraft in 1692. 28. There were 156 people total accused of witchcraft that we know for sure. May have been more, but 28 is a big chunk of that for one family. His wife was Elizabeth Ingalls. Her sisters and nieces and everybody that she was connected to basically got accused. And not exactly sure why, but probably because one of her relatives was Martha Allen Carrier, the queen in hell, as she was said to be by Mary Lacy Jr., who accused her of receiving that rank from the devil. Martha Allen Carrier. There's Abigail Dane Faulkner, Mary Allen Toothaker, who was the wife of Roger Toothaker, who's an interesting character because he was a unwitcher. So he was trying to reverse spells and also to inflict pain and death on witches. And then there's Elizabeth Johnson Jr., who was recently exonerated in 2022. And many, many more. As I said, there's 28 of them. And then beyond the witch trials, 12 of Francis Dane's 20 grandchildren married into other Andover families that were involved in the witch trials. Many of them being related to accused people, but a few of them actually being related to accusers. Who were you going to marry after the witch trials were over? It was probably somebody that was involved, because pretty much everybody in Essex County seems to get involved, especially in Andover.
We opened today thinking about Christopher Reeve, and as a human, he really proves that heroism isn't about superpowers, but he's also a symbol of superpowers. We want you to think about perseverance. We all take different poignant things away from the Salem Witch Trials. It's so complex, there's so many layers, and there's a lot of positive things to pull out. But we wanted you to think about perseverance today, that the gift of every Salem descendant is carried by the perseverance of our ancestors. But you don't have to share those bloodlines to share that lesson. Salem teaches us about the price of silence, the power of standing up, and the importance of questioning authority. Please don't be as polite as Mary Esty was. Those aren't genetic traits. They're human traits.
And please come join us on Patreon. We'll have a chat there about this episode, and you can tell us about your family stories and tell us what you respect and admire about your ancestors.
Show us your support by liking and subscribing at our YouTube channel, in our Patreon community, in our Facebook posts. If you're on LinkedIn, share our work there.
We can't promise you'll be faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, but you'll have a great time. That's patreon.com/aboutsalem. Join our organization End Witch Hunts live on World Day Against Witch Hunts to learn from leading experts about the survivors of witchcraft accusations in Ghana outcast camps.
Sunday, August 10th, End Witch Hunts Events is bringing together specialists from Amnesty International, the Sana Institute, the Total Life Enhancement Center Ghana, ActionAid, and Sangtaba for a crucial discussion on supporting survivors of witchcraft accusations with a special focus on women and children in Ghana's outcast camps.
The World Day Against Witch Hunts isn't just about history. It's about understanding a crisis happening right now. Vulnerable people, especially women and children, still face violence and exile due to witchcraft accusations in communities that desperately need our support.
This is your opportunity to learn directly from researchers, advocates, and organizations working directly in these communities to address their needs.
Events are happening globally to honor this day of remembrance and education. Please share the event details with your network.
You can register for free at endwitchhunts.org/day. Attending this event will help you gain insights that can help turn awareness into meaningful action.
Because understanding and then starting an important conversation is where meaningful change starts.
Hear the special expert panel Sunday, August 10th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. GMT, that's 1:30 p.m. EDT. Find the link to this free online webinar at endwitchhunts.org/day.